It's Tuesday, it's 6 o'clock, it's AA time, and I've got told off because I just chucked a minute in it last time. So, David, I'm giving you a proper introduction, you and Declan, today with your guests. So here it is, 1, 2, 3, over to David.
Thanks, Billy, and yeah, that's great, thank you. My name's Dave, forever an alcoholic. Can we start off by giving a big thanks to yourself and all at the radio here for giving us the opportunity to come along here again.
It's a pleasure, and soon we'll be playing clips on Black Country Radio on a Monday evening. Jimmy Toft, who does Monkey Jamboree on Extra, is going to host the show where we take extracts from various shows and just showcase them and then point them to the shows.
Brilliant.
So that'll be happening quite soon, so we'll let you know about that.
Brilliant, thanks, Billy. OK, we're shortly going to be introducing one of our members who was going to share their story with us. But before I do that, can I ask Dec to read out the preamble, which is something we use at the start of every meeting, and what tells you very simply what AA is, what it does, and I guess what it doesn't do. Dec.
Thanks, Dave. I'm Dec and I'm an alcoholic, and this is the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve the common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety.
Thanks, Dec, that's great. And could I now get our guests today to introduce themselves, please?
Hello, my name's Sarah and I'm an alcoholic.
Hiya, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. Lovely to see you, and thanks for taking the time to come along today and share your story with us. Can we start off? Can you give us a bit of background about yourself, your childhood, and where you were brought up, all that sort of stuff?
I was brought up in the Black Country.
Yay!
I was born in Tipton.
Oh, that's even better!
And I grew up not far away from Tipton and the park in Tipton. And I had a very nice childhood. My parents were together and it was a very lovely upbringing.
Good. And you got siblings?
I do. I have a sister who's younger than me.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right, lovely. And can you give us some idea when you had your first drink and how you got into that?
I had my first drink when I was very young. The alcohol was a big thing in my family. It was always at celebrations, always on the table, always being drunk in the evening. It was classed as the thing you did in the evening to relax. And when I was young, I was allowed to have wine with my meals. So I was introduced to alcohol from a very young age.
Right. So were Mum and Dad big drinkers, or?
Yes. My parents were both big drinkers when I was young. Not so much mum now, but my dad's quite heavy drinkers still. So.
Still, okay. So that was a bit of an influence for it there. Yeah. So when you say very young, are you talking sort of 15, 16? Or?
No, I was about 10, 11, and it was watered down at the time, but it was very young, really.
Yeah. And how did that progress over the years as you got into your teens?
I was a bit of a rebel. And I used to be out on the park with sneaky booze. I used to go to the shop and pretend I was 18 and have fake ID and buy loads of booze for everyone, and we just used to get drunk. And I remember on one occasion it was we all got I think it was called Thunderbirds and Diamond White and all of that sort of stuff, and went out on the park, got very drunk at a very young age. I think we were about 15, and it all got really rowdy, and somebody ended up breaking their arm. But yeah.
Not you though.
No, not me then. Not me then.
So, the friends that you had from school, were they part of your drinking? Were they drinking like you, or?
My drinking wasn't really a problem at that age. It was a problem because it wasn't really legal, but it was not an alcoholic.
Join the club.
It wasn't alcoholic drinking at that point in my life. No, it was quite a bit later. I spent my 20s really being a normal social drinker. I did quite a bit of illegal substances in my 20s, and alcohol really didn't play that much of a great part in my life. It was only when I sort of hit my 30s and I quit illegal substances that alcohol really entered into my life in a big way.
Oh, okay. So, taking you back though to your sort of teens and your late teens, when did you realise that you were drinking more than your friends, or didn't you?
I'd never remember the night before. I'd get home and I wouldn't remember how I got home. Even as a younger sort of at 17 and 18, I'd be the one waking up in the morning, and at the time there were no mobile phones, and I'd be there on the landline trying to sneak a phone call to my friends to find out what on earth I'd done the night before. Remember sitting on the stairs grabbing the phone, and so your parents wouldn't hear. And what did I do? And having my friends sort of, well, Sarah, relay tales of woe from the evening before. So from a very young age, I realised that I was not normal, and I just assumed that everybody else couldn't remember, but they could, and I couldn't.
Yeah. So that's how. So
can I ask a question? Because I'm sitting here, and obviously you probably had a similar childhood to me, and I've just been thinking. When we were little, did they do the same to you? Because you'd go to a party, wouldn't you, and your uncles would come round, or your mum, or you, and they'd say, "Oh, let the bab have a sip of this," and they'd give you a sip of sherry or port, and you'd only be like 3, wouldn't you? Or if you was a bab, they'd dip the dummy in the whiskey and put it in your gob, and you'd just think, and I was just thinking there, well, I used to have all that, and it's a bit weird. It's a similar sort of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. My grandmother used to...
Big Guinness in Ireland, Declan.
Yeah. Round here it was sherry.
Yeah, it was sherry. Or on a Saturday it was port and lemon or baby sham.
Yeah.
But I can remember you just talking, I can remember being down the club, and your auntie would come over and you'd be there like a tot, and they'd go, "Let the bab have a sip of this, like baby sham," and you'd just sup it down, wouldn't you?
You would.
Go up your nose and stuff, but... It's fascinating there. I was just thinking back.
That's exactly my childhood, really.
Yeah.
My grandmother had, not when my mum was around, but my grandmother, if it was cold, would give you a shot of something on the way out the door.
Yeah. This'll warm you up, Bab.
Yeah.
Don't tell your mother.
Yeah. It'd be like rocket fuel.
Yeah.
Running down the road. You didn't need ready breath.
No, that's it. Yeah. Sorry about that. I digress there.
There's 53 meetings in the Black Country. Well, I'll send you the list, mate.
Yeah, I don't know why I've never... I mean, it might have been that. I don't know why I've never drunk it. Same as never smoked. I smoked one nubbin, and my dad made me smoke a fake, and that was it then. Never smoked again. So.
Well done. Okay, so you got into other substances.
Yes.
In inverted commas. I'm doing the inverted commas thing here. But alcohol, did you mix that with alcohol, or did that...
Not really.
No.
Not to excess. It was more of a... I was more into the other substances effect than I was into the effect of alcohol at the time.
Right. Okay.
So... I wouldn't say I was teetotal by any stretch of the imagination,
No.
but I wasn't a big drinker in my 20s.
Right. And how did you get off the other substances? Did you just quit, or...?
funnily enough, I just decided one day I didn't want to do it anymore.
Really?
And it was for that side of my life, it was relatively easy, which kind of made the alcohol a bit more tricky than because I just got up one day and thought, I'm getting a bit old for this. I felt like the oldest swinger in town, and and going to these clubs at sort of 30 and taking illegal substances. I just felt that I was getting a bit too old, and one day I just stopped.
Right.
And I haven't touched them since, really.
Right.
So that was about 20 years ago, nearly.
Blimey. So the alcohol progressed from there, did it? When you
did.
Stopped?
Part of me kind of thinks I made a decision then. I'm going to grow up. And I stopped illegal substances and decided I was going to grow up. And in my head, what grown-ups did was they sat in front of the TV with a glass of wine in the evening, relaxing, watching something, documentaries on TV, and that was being grown up. That was posh wine, and I'd not done that before, and that's what I saw my parents do, and so I kind of progressed from not really drinking in the evening to all of a sudden growing up, in inverted commas, and sitting there relaxing in front of the TV in my own house with wine, and that's when it became an issue, really.
Right. So it became a sort of regular daily thing, a bit of a habit.
Yeah, it went from weekends to daily, and it went from 1 bottle to 2 bottles, and it just progressed.
Right. So just more and more often. Yeah, I think we can all relate to that. So, what sort of issues did that create in your life?
It at the time it didn't really create any problems initially. It was quite a few years down the line. That growing up phase ticked along very, very happily for quite a long time. I worked in a big city, and drinking was very much the culture. Everyone drank a lot. My drinking didn't stand out particularly amongst that. It was heavy, and it got heavier and heavier, but it seemed to fit in with that culture. It was only when my drinking took a turn, it kind of bit me. It kind of turned round and got me back, because after a particular heavy session I discovered that if I had a drink in the morning, the hangover went away. And as soon as I discovered that, the whole drinking ethos for me completely changed.
Right.
It went from being social, it went from being grown up, and it went from being a happy thing to quite quickly progress into something that was quite dark.
Right. So you were drinking all day? When you got to
Not
the
initially.
No.
It was. I just when it was a realisation that I could get rid of that nasty hangover feeling by having another drink, so over a period of time, the hangovers got worse in the evening, and morning drinking became a thing.
Became the norm.
Yeah. In that period of time, though, I managed to lose my house, my job, my car, my husband, and everything else of material value.
Wow. And that was how it progressed that bad?
Yeah, it progressed very quickly and very badly. I ended up in a little tiny flat with massive debts, and absolutely nothing to my name. But it got worse. It got a lot worse than that, even. I decided one day I was going to give up my job because I did work, and I suddenly had a light bulb moment that I was going to give up my job and I was going to get myself better, because I knew at this point that my drinking was not normal. I knew that possibly I was an alcoholic, and I knew that I needed to do something. So I decided that it'd be a really good idea to stop working, focus on myself, and sort this issue out.
Wow.
And it was at that point that it got really, really, really bad.
Yeah. And did you? I know you got to AA, but did you try any rehab or any of the other sort of alcohol people that are out there that help you with your drinking?
Well, many years before that, I've got a number of members of my family that are in AA already,
Right.
and quite a few years prior to that, I've been dragged to an AA meeting, kicking and screaming, not wanting to be there, and I'd decided that I was not an alcoholic because I had not lost my house, I hadn't lost my car, I hadn't lost my husband, I hadn't lost my job, I didn't hide booze, and I just wasn't an alcoholic, and I left that meeting with enough ammunition to go and speak to everybody and myself, really, to justify to myself and to justify to everyone that I don't do any of that, I'm not an alcoholic. I had tried a number of different services about monitoring and
Aquarius or
that kind of thing. I can't remember what it was called exactly, but that sort of thing where you kept sort of a booze diary. But I was a liar, and that's where alcohol took me, and I couldn't tell the truth to myself. And I certainly wasn't going to tell the truth to somebody who was telling me to write a booze diary. So,
you used to do it the hour before you went in there, didn't you?
I've had 2 shandies, I've sniffed a bottle of brandy, and I think I had a glass of wine. But that was just not the truth at all.
No. So that didn't work for you. So, I mean, you mentioned there, I can relate to what you said about the first meeting. My first meeting when I went was the guy who was doing the main share, a bit like you, he'd lost everything. And I thought, I'm not like that. I've got a responsible job. I've still got the wife, the kids, the house, the car, all the rest of it. And, at half time in the meeting, I said to the guy running it, I said, listen, I'm out of here. I said, this is not for me. I said, I haven't done any of that. And he said, no, we say in AA, not yet. He said, but, if you carry on drinking the way that you've described, ultimately you will lose. You will lose everything. And thank goodness I didn't get to that stage, but I got off the train before the terminus, as we say.
Yeah, I'm living proof that it does get worse. And if I could, if anything, and I could turn back time, and that first meeting was my first sober day, that would be something I would have done, because if I'd have listened rather than thought they were, if I'd have listened to the similarities and not the differences, I would have saved myself a lot of pain.
Yeah, a lot of pain. So you decided, are we ready for the?
Yeah, play a record.
Ready for the first record, right?
Yeah, Pink. So why have you picked Pink then?
I picked Pink because this particular song, because it kind of reminded me of my 20s, where it was a bit of a jagged little pill back then. And I know that this is not a jagged little pill, but you know what I mean. And also the way that she talks about it, it reminded me of my drinking and my alcohol.
Did you sort of remember good times? Because Jem used to do that. She used to post pictures of when they were all in Ibiza together and that was I think that was her life in a way.
Yeah.
She was living that period where the 13 or 14 of them would get to Ibiza and have a great time, and every time it'd be a picture of Ibiza, which is strange, isn't it?
I think you have to live and to get through each day. You have to have memories, happy memories, or some thoughts that are at least a little bit pleasant. And if you're in, well, for me, when I was in the depths of my drinking, there was nothing pleasant going on in my world. And so the only thing I'd got that was pleasant was history. And so if I could think of anything in my past, maybe I had a few trips to Ibiza that were very, brilliant. They were great fun, and I'd have pulled on those. So I understand that, because it is a very dark and lonely place, and if you can think of a time when you're not in a dark and lonely place, it makes it slightly better. So yeah, I understand that.
Let's have a listen to it then. Pink.
You're listening to Black Country Extra.
Tuesdays, and we're with AA, Declan and John, and their lovely guests. So back to you then.
Right, Sarah, thanks for that. So you you were drinking on a sort of daily basis there. What was the rock bottom that you got to that made you decide that maybe you need to get back to AA?
After I decided to try and make myself well, and I quit my job, my drinking became very, very bad. It reached a point where if my eyes were open, I was drinking. I was awake at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was at the shop by 7, buying alcohol. I drank round the clock. I didn't eat. I spent about 18 months to 2 years in and out of hospital, and by the end of that period in time, I weighed about 7 stone. I hadn't eaten for a very long time. At one point, I was in hospital with potassium deficiency, and they did blood tests on me, and they said, "You haven't eaten anything for 2 weeks." And I said, "I did say I haven't eaten anything for 2 weeks." And the doctor said, "Normally people come here and say they haven't eaten anything for 2 weeks, but they've had some soup, or they've had some toast, or they've had something to eat." He said, "But your blood tests show that your body hasn't processed any food for over 2 weeks."
That's incredible, isn't it?
So you just get your calories out of the alcohol. That's all. I mean.
I was in hospital with potassium deficiency, magnesium deficiency, various injuries that I incurred. I was in for all manner of different things. The worst hospital stint I had was when I depleted all of my minerals, and I couldn't walk because they potassium and magnesium work your muscles. I didn't know this, and I still really don't understand it completely. But because there was not enough of those minerals in my body, I couldn't focus because the muscles in my eyes wouldn't work, and I couldn't walk because my legs wouldn't work, and I was in hospital again for that.
Wow. So was that the final straw? Did that get you?
No. Carried on.
Okay.
In fact, and this is the insanity of it, I was in hospital for about a week or 2 weeks after this, and I was able to walk out of the hospital. I left the hospital and I crossed over the road and I walked straight into a supermarket and bought a bottle of vodka.
Yeah. Insane.
And that is how insane it was. How I didn't die. My family were just expecting a phone call to say that I was dead, really. My family were planning a funeral. I didn't know this until fairly recently, but they were just waiting because they'd tried everything that they possibly could. And when you're faced with somebody who's been in hospital for two weeks with something that they've actually caused themselves by just drinking, and then they come out and they go straight to the shop and buy more. There's just absolutely nothing that anyone can do.
That's the insanity of it.
And that is the pure insanity of it.
Right.
There's just no way that anyone of sound mind would think that was a sensible thing to do.
No, absolutely. So did you get dragged kicking and screaming again to another AA meeting by one of your family?
I ended up back in AA via rehab. I was by this point I was too ill really for anything else.
Right.
I I did have quite a few detoxes as well in that time, and the insanity just gets worse, doesn't it? I had a lot of detoxes. I was alcohol dependent, and I was quite badly alcohol dependent. My final detox, which is quite a few years ago now, thank goodness, they couldn't actually detox me until I'd reduced the amount of alcohol I was drinking.
Yeah.
So I was too drunk for a detox.
Too drunk for a detox. It's a bit of a weird one, that, isn't it? It's a bit of a paradox, that one. But, yeah.
So I had to, funnily enough, looking back now, it was the worst couple of weeks I've ever had, because I had to fight my addiction. So I had to taper my drinking off. I had to fight my addiction, which was the desire to drink a lot, and I had to deal with the withdrawal symptoms as well, which were horrific. I had hallucinations. I had obviously the sweats, the shakes, all of those things, but the hallucinations were out of this worldly bad. They weren't anything fun. They weren't the thing of the 60s. They were not pleasant. Then I ended up detoxed, and I ended up in rehab, and I was in rehab for a very, very long time.
And they got you into AA as part of that?
It was an AA rehab, and it was what I needed, because I could not see my part in anything. I'd had a bad life, I'd had terrible friends. It was all everybody else's fault, and it wasn't my fault. It was your fault, and if you hadn't have done that to me, I wouldn't be drinking now. And I couldn't see my side of anything. If someone was short with me or snapped at me in the supermarket, then I wouldn't think about them and think that they had possibly had a bad day. And, you know, it would always be about me. I was completely selfish. They moaned at me, I'm going to have a drink now. And I couldn't see anybody else's side to anything. And rehab taught me, really, that the world doesn't revolve around me, because I thought it did. And funnily enough, it doesn't.
Jem used to bang the wall, you know, she used to bang the wall, and I'm not going to give the names, but the neighbours were just fantastic. And then and she'd say, you've been round and because she couldn't find anything because she was drunk. You've stolen my so-and-so. And then James would collar me when I got out the car and said, look, you know, this has happened today. Honestly, and on our hearts, we haven't done it yet. And I went, well, I know. You went, James, and I'd go in and they've, you know, effing and blinding. They've stolen my so-and-so. You know. And I go, but Gemma, they haven't. You know, she does everything that she can for you. But as you say, it was all about Gemma, really, wasn't it? Yeah, it's always the time.
So you got in there and you started to get well, I guess.
I did.
You got it?
Oh, eventually, yes.
Yeah, by listening to the similarities.
Yes.
And how has your journey been? How did that change your life once you got in there and got some sobriety under your belt?
It's unrecognisable. I don't even feel like the same person anymore, really. It doesn't feel like that had anything to do with me now. I have to go to AA meetings just to remind myself of what it was like, because I can forget.
Yeah.
Because that person, and I'm quite pleased to say this, does not exist anymore.
Yeah.
And I suppose there was a kind of a death. That person actually did pass on and has gone, and this is the person that exists now. And I have to go to AA to know that I'm only an arm's length away from being back there again.
Yeah. And can you tell us how long it is since you had your last drink?
It's been 4 years, and it will be 5 years on the 6th of January, I believe. But
Right.
I don't count it. I don't count it. Just I know most people in AA in the fellowship count their sobriety quite religiously, but I don't, because I have a big red button that I used to press when I got very close to a birthday. So I'd get sort of to 6 or I don't know, a week before 6 months, and I'd think I'm nearly there, and I'd relax a little bit, or I'd get overly excited and I'd relapse. So I stopped really thinking about how long, and I just try and live in the day, and I try and do 24 hours, because that's all I've got. I've only got today.
And that's the key, isn't it? That's what we, the way that we work. You know, in reality, none of us in this room, and not including you, Billy, but none of us can safely drink ever for the rest of our lives. And that's daunting. But we just do it one day at a time, because we can do anything for a day, can't we?
Yeah.
And that's the secret of it. That's the secret of
I
it.
think that's what amazes me, because you still carry the weight, don't you? And it's it's unbelievable that you do that in the way that you do it. It's fantastic. Like.
And tell me about the way, I know the meetings are a big part of it, but outside of the meetings, there's a lot of other stuff I think goes on in that fellowship and that you have.
For me, oh, excuse me, sorry, I had to change everything. Absolutely everything had to change. My attitude, my life, every aspect of my life had to change. Where I went, who I went with, who I mixed with. I just had to change everything. And I had no battle with doing that. If you understand, well, if you know what I mean. I was happy to let that go and to build a new life. I think I took a big sledgehammer to what was my life, and there wasn't a lot left anyway. And from the rubble, I had to build a whole new life. And you have that choice. You can either go back to the way you were, or you can build something new. And I built everything new, completely different.
And life has improved day at a time.
Oh, it's brilliant. Every day gets better, really. Things happen, life happens, but my best day drinking is nowhere near as good as my worst day sober.
What a fantastic phrase, that.
Yeah,
Should patent that one.
Yeah, we have used that one before. And you said that you changed what you do. I mean, I always quote another saying, nothing changes if nothing changes. So people have to make their mind up that what they've been doing is not sustainable. They've got to change the way that they are, the way they behave, everything about them, really, and that's how it works.
Is your family still around? Have you built bridges with family and stuff like that?
Everything's everything has come back. Everything I lost has come back to me. Some of it slowly, some of it quickly. Some of it has probably come back a lot more than I expected it ever would. But everything that I lost, I've had back and more, and more. I've got an amazing life, really now, and I'm on the radio as well. Who'd have thought that?
Who'd have thought that? Superstar. Shall we play another record?
Yeah, good.
Next one's the Goo Goo Dolls. Now, these two... Declan, do you know the Goo Goo Dolls?
I do.
You do.
I do now. 'Cause
You do now.
I googled it.
So tell us about the Goo Goo Dolls.
I just love this song.
Yeah.
It's just a song that I've always really, really liked. And I did it. It was. I got asked to pick a few songs yesterday, and I just thought, right, okay, what do I love? And this one was the first one that I thought of. So.
Well, let's smash it with the Goo Goo Dolls then.
know that you feel me somehow. You're the closest to heaven that I'll ever be, and I don't wanna go home right now. And all I could taste is this moment, and all I can breathe is your light. And sooner or later it's over. I just don't wanna miss you tonight. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. And you can't fight the tears that ain't coming, all the moment of truth in your lies. When everything feels like the movies, yeah, you bleed just to know you're alive. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. I just want you to know who I am. I just want you to know who I am.
You're listening to Black Country Extra.
You are, and you're listening to AA, and I'm sitting here just gobsmacked and fascinated, as always. Back to you then, Dave.
Thanks, Billy. Before we get back to Sam, I'm going to ask Dec to read out some of the contact details for those of you who listen out there. If you think you might have a problem, then all the details are coming. So, Dec, over to you, mate.
That's great, Dave. Thanks for that. Yeah, there's many ways to contact us. Probably the most common one is the phone number, which is 0800 917 7650. That's 0800 917 7650. You can also Google the national website. If you just search for Alcoholics Anonymous UK, and it will be one of the top ones, or you can go straight to the actual website, which is alcoholics-anonymous.org.uk. And on the home page there, it actually gives you the phone number as well that I've just read out. You can also contact us via help@aamail.org. There's also a live chat part where you can just type away to somebody on the other end who could guide you. What else have we got? We have Find a Meeting. So you can pop in your postcode, no matter where you are in the country, you can pop your postcode in, it'll bring you up a list of live meetings and Zoom meetings that are still available. I think that's pretty much it.
That's great, Dec. Thanks for that. And that's the sort of meeting guide. I mean, within the Black Country and Wyre Forest area, as we call it, there's something like 53 meetings a week. There's a lot of support there. And there are still Zoom meetings. I mean, you can, with the pandemic, Zoom came, quite a big thing, and you can probably still get on a Zoom meeting any hour of any day, anywhere in the world. So it's all there to be had. So okay. I guess the pandemic was a bit of a bind for all of us in all aspects. But they closed AA meetings down. We weren't allowed to meet live, and then I think we started with Skype originally with meetings, and then it went to Zoom. How did you? Because I know you used to come on them. How did you find that?
I think we all had to adapt to that situation anyway, didn't we? And part of that adaptation process was that we just had to attend Zoom meetings. If we needed a meeting, it had to be on Zoom. We're lucky that they were on Zoom because and that kind of facility was available to us. If we hadn't have had this technology, I think it would have been a lot worse. I know that the pandemic, if I hadn't have got into AA and I wasn't sober during it, it would have killed me. Because my alcoholism would have thrived on the isolation, thrived on the one trip to the shop. It would have loved that, stuck up and then lock myself away. Nobody could have come round and visited me, which would have been perfect.
It's scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it would have been the perfect environment for my alcoholism anyway, and it would have killed me. I wouldn't have got through it.
I think it was well documented that since the lockdown, the rate of alcoholism or people who are alcohol dependent has increased quite a lot. So we were, but I think for those, we had a few people on the show last year that came in lockdown. We call them our Zoom babies. And have got sober on the Zoom, and then started coming to the live meetings when they came back up, and I've got some really, really good sobriety. So it's been I think if anything, AA got stronger in lockdown. I think people just people need that help, and they go to any lengths to get it, and Zoom played a huge part in that. So you're living proof, Sarah, that that there's another satisfying and enjoyable life after drinking. What would you say to people? There's somebody listening out there who's listening to the shows, who's maybe thinking, "Oh, yeah, blimey, I can relate to the way that her drinking progressed, and maybe I have got a bit of a problem." But what would you say to them?
I'd say don't leave it. I'd say if you think that you may possibly have a problem, give AA a go. Give not drinking a go, because they're not going to stop alcohol production in the foreseeable future. And I'd just try AA. Go with an open mind and try the 12 steps, try a sober life, because there's quite a number of years that I I don't want to say suffered really, that I didn't have to, and I could have had this life a lot sooner. So I would definitely get to an AA meeting, because you're not going to lose anything, because you can we don't hold you ransom. We don't say if you come through the doors of AA you can't go out, you're trapped. So I'd try AA, and if it's not for you, and if life is worse for you when you don't drink, you can always crack on. You can go back out there. But I'd try it, because I couldn't see how life would be any better without alcohol. But one of my problems was that I thought there'd be no happiness. I thought if I stopped drinking, my life will be boring. There'll be no happiness in my life whatsoever. I'll be sober, but I'll be grumpy, unhappy, and I'll have no friends and no social life. And that is the complete opposite of what my life is today. I don't drink, and I've got more friends than I used to have. I've got a better social life than I did have. I have more fun than I used to have. And life is a lot better. But from the other side, when I was drinking, I couldn't see that that was possible. And I would say to anyone, even if you think you've just got a little bit of a problem, try it, because life without alcohol is so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, as you say, come with an open mind and, and listen from that. Given the time since your last drink then, you still come to AA meetings? You're still doing...
I do.
You're not cured then? You're not
No,
cured.
I don't think I am. I've been
I
out...
do say that a bit tongue-in-cheek every time, but I know you're not.
I've dipped my toe in that water after periods of sobriety enough to know that I'm never cured. I'm never going to be cured. I've had enough relapses to know that it gets bad quick as well. The last relapse I had, I was alcohol dependent within 2 weeks.
Wow. You're straight back there.
Yeah, I believe. Well, I don't know if this is true, but I've got a funny feeling that your body has like a memory. I know that if you do an exercise, your body can remember that exercise once you've done it right. And I do wonder whether my body has just got a memory that when I drink alcohol, I'm alcohol dependent, and it just switches straight away. Because I went from the odd. It started off as the odd glass of wine, which was fine, and then. Or when I started drinking heavily again, within 2 weeks it was alcohol dependent.
And the secret is, and we share that a lot with people, and I certainly do, the secret is don't pick up that first drink.
Yes.
Because if you do pick up that first drink, you're in a bit of trouble.
Yes.
I won't say what I normally say, but... because I can't. But, that's the key, isn't it? If you just don't pick up the first drink. You don't get to 10, 15, 20. That's the secret. And just one day at a time.
One day
That's
at a
the key.
time.
Yeah.
And stay away from the first drink.
That's the key.
I suppose every time there's a relapse, your liver must think, yes, here it comes. But then it damages it. I know it recovers, but it must damage it just that little bit more. And like you say, you risk the time where it's said, I've had enough now, innit? That's the thing. So you've got to be really careful of that.
Yeah. And it's so quick.
Yeah.
So quick.
That's amazing, that is. Really. Just fabulous.
Okay, are we...
Well, you've got a couple of minutes, so, whatever you want to talk. I mean, I'll be really interested in... Do you do counselling yourself now? Do you? Because, I mean, I know some of the folks that have been in now, they mentor other people, so...
I do counselling, yes. I
mean, I think that's an horrible name for it to be. You talk to people, like,
I talk to people in AA meetings.
Yeah.
I am actually a counsellor.
Oh,
but
not in alcohol.
But not in alcohol. Yeah. But I do counsel people. Funnily enough, I counsel people with other forms of addiction.
Yeah. But that's I mean, we've said it before, that's not a textbook thing, that's a lived thing, and to me that's more important.
Yeah.
You can have all your textbooks as far as I'm concerned, but if somebody's gone through it, then they know what to look for and how to bring people out of that. It's fantastic.
I think that's what we find in AA meetings, that everybody in that room is an alcoholic. There's no professionals in. There might be a few doctors and nurses in there along the way, but that have got our addiction. But in the main, it's people have been there, done it, got the T-shirt, and they just share their experiences with us. We've seen today. So, yeah.
And do you use your own experiences when you're counselling people with other addictions?
I think that a lot of the things you learn from sort of the 12 steps are useful for anybody. Looking at your part in something, taking responsibility for what you do and your actions. I think anyone benefits from actually taking a look at what the 12 steps are. You don't necessarily need an addiction really to benefit from doing those things.
It helps you cope with life, doesn't it?
Yeah, it just helps you to cope with life. And if someone out there is struggling with anything really, depression, anxiety and all those things, the 12 steps and taking it a day at a time and looking at your part, not blaming, meeting people, socialising, all of those things are benefit anyone with anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's been a complete honour. Now, the last track I've never heard of, so where's this come from? Flowers?
It just really makes me laugh. It's just really fun. It's the kind of song I put on, or when it comes on the radio, or when I put it on, I've got my windows down, the sun's shining, and I turn it up full blast, and everybody looks at some old woman driving around.
It's like my daughter, she say, Dad, I know when you come on the estate, because I can just hear you coming.
Can I, just before we go on to that track, Billy, thanks again to yourself and the radio.
It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Sarah, an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time.
So let's go out then, this one, is it the band called Flowers then, or?
No. I think the band's called Sweet Female Attitude, which is a fabulous title. I think we all need a sweet female attitude.
Great stuff. Here we